Chapter 1270, Cautious Resistance Army. Soon after, Liang Yu caught up with Mu Yan, Zhuoma, and others. This is a snowy mountain, and there are such places everywhere in the snowy plateau. After hiding in the vast snowy mountains, the Tusi's private soldiers could not find them. Zhuoma led a group of people riding on wild wolves, waiting for Liang Yu to come. Although they looked at Liang Yu with gratitude, they were still very cautious. After all, they didn't know who Liang Yu was. In this case, it would not be ruled out that it was a counter-espionage plan by the Paji family to deliberately find out the location of their rebel camp. After seeing Liang Yu, Zhuoma turned over from the wolf's back and walked to her. Mysterious strong man, thank you for your help this time. Zhuoma stared at Liang Yu and said sincerely. Liang Yu's eyes looked behind her. Among the rebels, she saw 7 or 8 women who were rescued. Liang Yu couldn't help but frown. Did you only save these few people? There are obviously hundreds of poor women imprisoned below. What should they do? Liang Yu's words attracted a sneer from a rebel behind. What do you think this is? Are you playing house? He looked at Liang Yu with a vigilant look. Even though Liang Yu saved him, he still didn't trust her completely. Mu Yan stood there silently, not seeming unfamiliar with such scenes. Zhuoma rebuked in a deep voice. Ataki, you are not allowed to be so rude to our benefactors. The man named Ataki didn't continue to speak, but he looked at Liang Yu and Mu Yan with vigilance. Zhuoma explained to Liang Yu and Mu Yan, please forgive our offense, but in the past 2 years, the 4 chieftains and the monks of Sanja temple have used too many means to deal with us. This includes people pretending to be our supporters, infiltrating our inner circle, and then encircling and suppressing us. Hearing Zhuoma say this, Liang Yu understood why they were so wary of her. But she could understand it. Liang Yu just said calmly, I understand, but I help you just hoping you can take care of those poor women. Can you give me an explanation? Zhuoma looked at Liang Yu and explained, because we don't have such good conditions to take care of so many people. Liang Yu raised her eyebrows. Food, not enough? Zhuoma nodded. Of course. Not long after the blizzard came to the snowy plateau, the 4 Tusi families and Sanja temple confiscated all supplies. The life of our rebels may not be much better than those enslaved people. She looked back at the rescued women. Those we rescued are all our relatives and sisters. And the remaining more than 100 people, if they are all taken back, we can't support them with our material conditions. At this time, Mu Yan on the side spoke indifferently. If you can't support so many people, why did you raid the camp? The number of people you rescued is not small. Liang Yu also stared at Zhuoma with a cold look. Obviously, Zhuoma's explanation was not reasonable. Zhuoma looked at Liang Yu calmly. Your Excellency is so powerful that I am no match for you, so I chose to stand here and talk to you. But you don't seem to have any experience with war. To put it bluntly, more than 100 burdens, including pregnant women, and more than 100 soldiers who are trained to go to the battlefield. Which side do you think is more valuable to us? Liang Yu's pupils shrank suddenly when she heard this. She took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, I thought you were the saviors of the snowy plateau, and you are different from those chieftain forces. Zhuoma smiled faintly and said disapprovingly, Of course we are different from them. But we are not naive to think that kindness and sincerity can win victory. In order to liberate the serfs in the entire southwest region, sacrifice is indispensable. If one day it is necessary, all of us can sacrifice our lives. She pointed to the rebels behind her and said neither servile nor arrogant. Liang Yu remembered the scene where Zhuoma had just fought desperately with Cheongda, and her attitude towards her became much more relaxed for a while. She also understood that Zhuoma was right. But what about them? Can they only be sacrificed? The rebel soldier just now said loudly, if they stay, they have a greater chance of survival than leaving with us. The chieftain has no shortage of food, and he has to feed these women for their enjoyment. This is indeed the truth, but it still makes people feel uncomfortable to say it so bluntly. However, these rebels on the snowy plateau were extremely straightforward. They did not hide anything and told Liang Yu the truth directly. Zhuoma stared at Liang Yu and Mu Yan and said, You saved our lives, but we cannot fully trust you now. Please forgive our caution. We must be responsible for the entire resistance army. Therefore, please go back. Or, if you are also sent by the chieftain, you can kill us now." Zhuoma put his right hand on his chest and looked at Liang Yu with burning eyes. Mu Yan came to Liang Yu and said coldly, "Let's go. What you have to do is already done. It's done. There's no need for us to have too much interaction with them." Liang Yu sighed lightly. "You're right." She felt a little regretful, but she didn't regret her actions. Saving one person is one. At least these girls were saved. They knew that Liang Yu and Mu Yan were their saviors, and they looked at them with gratitude and tears in their eyes. "Let's go." Liang Yu didn't say much, and was about to leave with Mu Yan. Zhuoma stared at the two of them, her eyes surging, as if she was struggling with something. But seeing that the two were about to leave, she suddenly opened her mouth and called them. "Wait a minute." Liang Yu and Mu Yan looked at her curiously. "Is there anything else?" Zhuoma took a deep breath. She thought about it and realized that such powerful people might be the chieftain's men. But what if they're not? In that case, winning these two strong men to the rebel camp would undoubtedly greatly enhance their strength. Zhuoma bowed deeply to Liang Yu and Mu Yan. "From the fact that you are willing to help us, I know that you are both people with a sense of justice. Can you leave a contact number? If we need help one day, come and help us." Zhuoma looked at the two of them sincerely. Mu Yan and Liang Yu were speechless. Although they were used to these people speaking bluntly, this sentence did not sound very emotionally intelligent. Chapter 1277 Excessive Request. Liang Yu said, "Exchange contact information?" Zhuoma lowered her head. "Sorry, we can't give you our contact information. Because once you two are chieftain's men, you can easily find our camp based on it. So, we can only contact you two unilaterally," Zhuoma said, and her face couldn't help but blush. Even if she was a straightforward person, she knew that this request was a bit excessive. But now, they must ensure their safety in the extremely difficult survival of the snowy plateau. She had no choice but to bite the bullet and make such a request. Mu Yan said lightly, "Only you can contact us and ask us for help, but we can't contact you. That's what you mean, right?" Although her tone was flat, everyone could hear her dissatisfaction. "So it's natural for us to help you?" Zhuoma's face froze, and she lowered her head in shame, just burying her head lower. "We are not able to give you the corresponding compensation now. We just hope that you will help us for the sake of the countless people who have suffered in the snowy plateau." She gritted her teeth and said this while enduring the shame in her heart. Mu Yan smiled faintly. "Okay, it's just a contact number. It's not impossible to give it to you." Liang Yu looked at Mu Yan in surprise, not knowing why she agreed to such a condition. Mu Yan did not explain, but left her communication channel to Zhuoma. Then she and Liang Yu disappeared into the shadow and rushed to the courtyard of Paji's house. On the way back, Liang Yu finally asked the doubts in her heart. "I thought you would refuse, but I didn't expect you to be out of character. What are you thinking?" Mu Yan smiled faintly. "This kind of little jerk will come in handy sooner or later." Liang Yu's face froze, and an awkward smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. "I knew it." Mu Yan is a new member of the team. She is usually taciturn and has little presence. A person's ability can more or less reflect his temperament. Mu Yan's ability is good at infiltration investigation, and she herself is also a quiet person. But her experience in the end of the world was more dangerous and richer than that of everyone in the shelter, which made her cautious and wise. Mu Yan also smiled. She carefully explained to Liang Yu. "Jangi asked us to come here to investigate intelligence. It is difficult for us to contact the existence of the resistance army at ordinary times, so it is better to contact them first. Maybe it will be useful in the future. Besides, it's just a contact number, and it doesn't say that we must help." Mu Yan said disapprovingly. Liang Yu admired Mu Yan in her heart. "You are still thoughtful. I am convinced." Mu Yan just glanced at her lightly. "You helped others, but they are wary of you everywhere. You didn't get any benefits. Don't you regret it?" Liang Yu smiled lightly. "Everything I did was not for anyone, but just to make my conscience at ease." She blinked at Mu Yan. I have long had no expectations of human hearts, so it is not disappointing. What a fool. Muyen shook her head and said nothing more. When the two returned to the Pudge family courtyard, Jangi had returned early. Of course he noticed the movement outside, but he didn't care about these things. The Pudge family still has the ability to deal with such trivial matters, and Pudge Gesang will not bother him for this. When he returned home, Yang Xinxin and others did not sleep, but were waiting for Zhang Yi to come back. Zhang Yi glanced at the room and asked lightly, Liang Yu and Muyen haven't come back yet? Zhou Ke shook her head and said with a smile, not yet. Zhang Yi raised his eyebrows. Oh, really? Thinking of the movement in the surf camp, Zhang Yi suddenly realized something. Could it be that the two of them did it? Impossible. With them. Even if they let the serfs go, they will only let them freeze to death in the ice and snow. They won't do such a stupid thing. Zhang Yi sat on the sofa, and Zhou Ke brought him hot tea. Everyone couldn't wait to ask him about his gains tonight. Zhang Yi leaned on the sofa, looked up at the ceiling, and sighed after a long time. The muddy water in the southwest region is much deeper than I thought. He told everyone everything he had experienced today. After listening, the expressions on everyone's faces were extremely wonderful. 5 Ypsilons, so many terrifying beings actually appeared at the same time in the Great Snow Mountain. It is obvious that the trip to the southwest region is more troublesome than expected. Yang Xinxin lowered her head and thought for a moment, but said very calmly, It sounds a bit incredible, but it is reasonable. This also shows that there are mysterious relics under the Great Snow Mountain. Otherwise, it would not be possible to attract so many powerful people. Zhou Ke sat next to Zhang Yi, took his arm and asked, You have fought with those people. Can you recognize who they are? Zhang Yi knew most of the Ypsilons in Huashu country. As long as they made a move, their obvious ability characteristics would be revealed. Zhang Yi shook his head. The most terrifying thing is that I don't know almost any of those people. However, he rubbed his chin. 2 of them seemed to be locals from the southwest region. The Burial Master and the Golden-Winged Alien are obviously in the same group. Zhang Yi is very sure of this. Yang Xinxin analyzed it and said, If that's the case, the identities of only 2 people are difficult to determine. There are only 2 possibilities. One is that they are super strong people hidden in other regions. Second, a sharp look flashed in her eyes. They are not aliens from Huashu country at all. As soon as these words came out, the atmosphere suddenly became tense. Uncle Yu looked a little angry. You mean, there are foreigners coveting the treasures of our Huashu country? Yang Xinxin said, This possibility cannot be ruled out, and this possibility is extremely high. She analyzed seriously. According to my brother, the strength of these 5 people is not weak, especially the 2 aliens with suspicious identities. Their ability index will not be lower than 15,000 points. And this kind of existence is also the best in all major regions today. With such powerful strength, could they be unknown? So it is most likely that they come from other countries or forces. Zhang Yi habitually stroked the back of his hand. His eyes were dim, and his black pupils flashed with a mysterious luster. If Pudge Gesang can invite me, then other forces in the snowy plateau may also be able to come. Yang Xinxin said, But first, can we send the Yashaling Tai family? They control the funeral master. According to my brother, his ability index is as high as 20,000, and he has absolute hegemony in the snowy plateau. Normally, they are the absolute rulers of the snowy plateau who are hard to find opponents. There is no need to invite wolves into the house. Zhang Yi nodded. In that case, the most suspicious ones are the Xiaozhou family and the Lemon family. As soon as Zhang Yi finished speaking, a voice rang in the room. There are more than just these chieftain families in the snowy plateau. There is another force. A round black shadow appeared on the ground, and the figures of Liang Yu and Mu Yen slowly emerged from the middle. Chapter 1278. It is impossible that Zhang Yi's people did it. Seeing Liang Yu and Mu Yen coming back, Zhang Yi had guessed what they had done. How is it? Any new discoveries? Liang Yu and Mu Yen did not hide anything from Zhang Yi, and clearly told what they had done. We concealed it very well. They won't find out our identities. Liang Yu and Mu Yen are now both captain level, and Liangyu's strength has reached the extremely high level of the Delta level. However, they're still not very famous. Moreover, in the distant southwest region, no one would investigate two captain-level aliens. In addition, she retained her strength, and no one could find out that she was the Zuinv next to Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi didn't think much of it, and just asked lightly, "Did you gain anything? You mentioned the rebels. Did you contact them?" Liangyu talked about her contact with Zhuma again. Zhang Yi knocked on the handrail beside him, and the 4 Ypsilons who appeared there today appeared in his mind. And just when the 5 people gathered at the foot of the snowy mountain, the rebels came to attack Pudge's house. If this is a coincidence, it is too much of a coincidence. So, apart from the funeral master, one of the remaining 3 people should have cooperated with the rebels. Zhang Yi crossed his arms and fell into thought. Liangyu looked at Zhang Yi, hesitated and asked, "Zhang Yi, will you blame me?" "Blame you? Why should I blame you?" Zhang Yi smiled faintly. "You did a good job. Now we have another channel to communicate with the rebels. Maybe it will be useful one day." Liangyu used to be a bodyguard in a special position. After professional training, his skills are no less than those of an agent. She said she would not expose her identity, and she would definitely not expose it. And even if she was really exposed, Padja Jesang would not turn against him because of such a small matter. "But I see that your expression is not very good." Liangyu said so. Zhang Yi raised his eyebrows. "I frown not because I blame you, but I am thinking about how to maximize my own interests in this operation. The strength of the burial master is very strong. I have witnessed his fear with my own eyes. That is not something that ordinary people can possess. It is too incredible. Even I am not sure that I can beat him. The blessing of the power of Tantra makes people feel awe." He saw with his own eyes that the burial master used his body as a guide to absorb the power of 5 Ypsilons and lead them to the gate of the demon kingdom. At that time, his body was shattered by the bombardment, bloody and white bones. But under the blessing of the power of Tantra, he quickly reshaped his body. At that time, he and the other 2 mysterious Ypsilons joined forces to barely gain the upper hand. If the gate of the demon kingdom is really opened, the burial master will have the 3 advantages of time, place, and people. At that time, can Zhang Yi still get an advantage from him? Zhang Yi closed his eyes and fell into deep thought. The burial master is the biggest problem he needs to face at the moment. And the strength of the other 2 people seems to be no less than his. It's not so easy to get benefits on this trip. Cheongda was easily defeated by Liangyu, but Liangyu didn't take his life. As a reinforcement-type alien, this non-fatal injury can be healed quickly. However, being defeated in the territory of the Page family and watching the rebels cause huge damage made Cheongda feel extremely humiliated. Not long after, he knelt in front of the big bed of Page Gesang, his head pressed tightly against the floor. "Page Tussi, your subordinates are incompetent and let the rebels run away." Page Gesang sat on the bed with his fat body, and his personal guard Solong Daeji stood beside him. Solong Daeji looked at Cheongda coldly below. After hearing his report, he angrily scolded, "You useless waste. You let the rebels run away in the territory of the Page family. Could it be that the person who came is the Snow Mountain Condors?" The Snow Mountain Condor, the soul of the rebels, is also the first person to lead the rebellion against the Tusi's rule. If it weren't for his existence, the rebels would not have been able to survive until now, and would have been wiped out by the 4 major families long ago. Paji Gesang said nothing, his eyes were devoid of emotion, and he even stretched out his carrot-thick little finger to pick his ear. Cheongda swallowed his saliva and hurriedly explained, "Originally, those guys were no match for us. But just when I was about to take down Zhuama, a cadre of the rebels, a woman dressed in black combat uniforms suddenly showed up. That woman's outfit was very advanced, and she was definitely not a member of the rebels. She was stronger than me, and she almost pierced my chest with just one blow." This sentence attracted the attention of Paji Gesang and Solong Daeji. Outsiders? If the area is magnified to this level, it would be a bit complicated. In recent years, everyone knows that the Yashalangtai family intends to annex the other 3 families. So each family is secretly recruiting troops and horses to expand their own power. Needless to say, their Paji family and several other families have also done this. It is difficult to identify outsiders, so it is impossible to figure out who did it. At this time, Cheongda tentatively raised his head and expressed his guess. "We are here." Only 10 minutes after the battle, the mysterious person made a move, and she had helpers. So, he deliberately said only half of his words, and there was no need to say the rest. Everyone understood that he was hinting that the person who made the move came from the Paji family's territory. Paji Gasang's eyes turned cold. Only in front of Zhang Yi did he look like a naive fat man. But in front of other people, he was just the cold and ruthless overlord. "You mean they are the people I invited?" Cheongda lowered his head and said, "I remember that there was a woman among the 4 people who came today. Judging from the body shape, they are indeed somewhat similar." Paji Gasang suddenly laughed loudly. "Ha ha ha. Cheongda, what nonsense are you talking about?" His laughter stopped immediately, and he said to Cheongda coldly, "Don't mention this sentence again, and you are not allowed to tell anyone." Cheongda did not dare to refute, but he was very confused. He did not understand why Paji Gasang would protect those mercenaries so much. Only Solong Daiji understood. If Zhang Yi really wanted to do something to the Paji family, to put it bluntly, he could kill all the people in the Paji family in one night. Back off. Send someone to investigate this matter carefully. In addition, strengthen patrols every day and don't make the same mistake again. It was just the loss of some serfs and a few women, which was not a big deal for Paji Gasang. He would not believe that the top strong man in the Jiangnan region would be so bored that he would come here to be a good person. He also collected Zhang Yi's personal information. That was a terrifying killer who killed thousands of people in the entire community by himself in the early days of the apocalypse. He ran all the way to the snowy plateau just to be a good person and save a few serfs who had no relatives with him. Paji Gasang found it funny and naturally would not believe it. Chapter 1279. Yashaling Tai Daiji. Sarah City, Lemon family. Late at night, a dark shadow suddenly appeared from outside and came to the room of Lemon family patriarch, Lemon Oju. Among the 4 Tusi families, only the head of Lemon family is a woman. Lemon Oju is 36 years old this year. She is a woman with exquisite makeup. Her long hair is tied into a long braid and placed behind her head, revealing a smooth and broad forehead. Whenever she looks at people, she will raise her chin and look down at people. However, she does have such qualifications. Looking at the entire southwest region, there are not many people who can make her look up to them. But this person is an exception. The tall figure appeared in her huge bedroom. This is a 3-story room, but she lives alone. Without her order, even the maids are not allowed to enter. The tall figure sat on the sofa in the living room on the 1st floor, put away the helmet on the combat uniform, and revealed a handsome face with clear edges and corners. This is not an oriental face. The deep blue eyes are as deep as the sea, and the slightly long chestnut hair is loose and casual. He sat in the living room, and soon the lights on the 2nd floor came on. Lemon Oju, wearing a black nightgown, held the handrail and looked downstairs indifferently. "Where did you go?" Lemon Oju asked as he walked downstairs. The man did not look back, but smiled and said, "I went to see the place you mentioned." Sure enough, there was an unexpected gain. Lemon Oju sneered and raised the corner of his mouth. "I said that even if you found that place, you couldn't get in without the help of our Lemon family." The man shrugged. "You have to try it anyway, but you are right, my dear lady." He took out a bottle of red wine from under the table, poured a glass by himself, and then greeted Lemon Oju. Lemon Oju walked to his side, sat down on the sofa, and crossed her legs by herself, suddenly ignoring that her thighs were exposed in front of the other person. It's a pity that even if she's already 36 years old and has supreme wealth and power and can enjoy all the beauty and skincare products in the world, it is difficult to fight against the years. Her legs were very white, but skinny and tight, without much luster. "What did you find?" Lemon Oju asked, staring straight at the man in front of him. The man took a sip of red wine. his eyes deep and playful. He looked at Lemon. I found the situation in your snowy plateau very interesting. It's much more interesting than I thought. Although it will increase the difficulty of our cooperation, it's more interesting this way, isn't it? Lemon also poured herself a glass of red wine, shook it in front of her, and frowned. Don't make trouble. The three families of Yashalangtai, Paji, and Xiaja, as well as the monks of Sanja Temple, are not so easy to deal with. The tall man spread his hands. You are right, so you still need to come and make plans. But the main conflict is not with you now, right? Lemon took a sip of red wine. Her eyes were cold, and she gritted her silver teeth. That's right. Let them fight first. The one who laughs the best is nothing. The most important thing is to laugh to the end. Sanja Temple, standing in front of the snow-capped mountains. From a distance, it is backed by the Great Snow Mountain, as if it was built on the mountainside of the Great Snow Mountain. Of course, this is just a visual perception. In fact, Sanja Temple is still some distance away from the Great Snow Mountain. This night is destined to be not peaceful. Great Light Hall. The funeral master sat cross-legged on the cushion, with the statue of Tathagata Sakyamuni above him. He closed his eyes and meditated. There was a breeze in the air, not cold wind, passing through the central hall of Sanja Temple, blowing through the 3,000 prayer towers, making them turn slowly. An invisible force gathered in the Great Light Hall and sank into the body of the funeral master. Under the Great Snow Mountain, he used his body as a guide to absorb the power of the 5 Ypsilons and unlock the first seal of the Gate of the Demon Kingdom. Although he can get the blessing of the tantric power continuously in the snowy plateau. But this power is too huge, and it is difficult for him to digest it for a while. At that time, in order to shock everyone, he had to hold on. Now he needs to spend time to slowly repair his golden body. Outside the Great Light Hall, an old monk walked in. He was wearing a purple robe, with only a thin layer of hair on his head, which had already turned gray. Looking at the funeral master sitting in meditation on the cushion, the old monk, the current Chiba of Sanja Temple and the head of the Yashalangtai family, Yashalangtai Deji, slowly spoke. Loren died today, killed by the mercenaries hired by the Paji family. You always told me not to have disputes with other families. But the divided snowy plateau will only lead to constant disputes. Juegwa, when will you agree to my help? Completely unify the entire tantric power. The funeral master slowly opened his eyes. Facing Deji, who was sighing and hiding grief in his eyes, the funeral master slowly said, Everything is predetermined. Loren is just entering the cycle of reincarnation. This is his fate. Deji's face turned cold. Fourth master, don't forget that you are also from the Yashalangtai family. Our family must not allow others to bully us. The more you don't do anything, the more people in the snow region will die. The funeral master slowly closed his eyes. Amitba. Facing the funeral master's response, Deji stomped his feet angrily. Okay, if you don't do anything, then I will. Faced with the pedantic funeral master, Deji had no way to deal with it. This funeral master was the supreme guardian god of the tantric sect, and no one could force him to do anything. Maybe in the past, but now, the funeral master is not only a nominal leader, but also a real guardian god with great supernatural powers. It's a pity that since he was enlightened at the age of 8, he has been kept in Sanja Temple to practice Buddhism. Buddhism is good, but it may not be suitable for the cruel world. The funeral master is devoted to Buddhism, which makes him have a simple and kind heart, so he is unwilling to be a gun for the Yashalangtai family. This is a good thing and a bad thing. Analyzing from another perspective, if he really coveted power, there would be no Yashalangtai Deji. Deji walked down the steps of the Great Light Hall in a hurry. At the bottom of the steps, his guards were waiting respectfully. Deji glanced at the guards in front of him. These people were monks from Sanja Temple and Vajra serving gods and Buddhas. But now, there is not much difference between them and the private soldiers of his Yashalangtai family, and they all obey Deji's orders. Muchuan, come here. Deji looked at a guard and waved at him. Muchuan hurried over. Chiba. Deiji reached out and stroked his head, then said with a sharp look, "Tomorrow, I will send you to do something." Chapter 1280 Deiji's Conspiracy. The next morning, Jangi got up and immediately went to find Paji Giseng. He wanted to obtain intelligence on the entire southwest region, especially the information on the military strength of the other three major families and Sanja Temple, aliens, weapons, and the size of private soldiers. He must grasp all this information to avoid mistakes in future actions. But before he left, Paji Giseng came over by himself. "Sir Chaos." Jangi nodded. "Master Paji, do you have something to ask me?" "I just happen to want to find you too." Paji Giseng sighed with a serious face. "Early this morning, Yashlangtai Deiji asked the people of our four major families to go to a meeting in the name of the Sanja Temple Tribe." Zhang Yi raised his eyebrows. "You have meetings so frequently?" Paji Giseng's face was a little strange. He looked at Zhang Yi and said, "Even if he doesn't have a legitimate reason, he can't ask us to go to a meeting. It's just that something special happened yesterday." Zhang Yi saw that Paji Giseng's eyes were not right, thought about it, and pointed at himself with an inexplicable smile. "Could it be related to me?" Paji Giseng nodded. "Didn't you kill a patrol team yesterday?" "Yes, but I've already told you." "Why? Can't you kill them?" Zhang Yi smiled faintly. Paji Giseng said quickly, "Of course not. It's just that the identities of those people are a little special. I believe you also know that the monks of Songja Temple are now no different from the private soldiers of the Yashalangtai family. However, on the surface, they still represent Songja Temple, that is, Tantric Buddhism. You killed so many monks, including the guardian Vajraluoluan, who has a very high superpower index. Deiji let us pass in this name." Paji Giseng's eyes were a little helpless. Zhang Yi immediately understood his situation. Today's Yashalangtai family is equivalent to holding the emperor hostage to command the princes. In the southwest region, how much influence does the Tantric sect have? Let's put it this way, basically everyone is a Tantric believer. Even if the Paji family is an enemy of the Yashalangtai family, they dare not jump out and say that they are against Tantric Buddhism. Zhang Yi nodded and asked, "Is it easy to deal with? Or do you want me to take action now?" Paji Giseng waved his hand and said, "Not really. Haha, we are only a step away from a falling out. The Chuanzhao Dharma Assembly will be held in a week. He won't do anything to us." Zhang Yi smiled and said, "That's good. You can settle the dispute yourself." "Well, I just came to inform you. In order to prevent them from doing something with this as an excuse, please don't go out casually." Zhang Yi nodded. "Okay." It was not easy for him to go out and investigate casually in broad daylight. Anyway, there was still a long time before the Chuanzhao Dharma Assembly was held, so he was not in a hurry. Before leaving, Paji Giseng asked Zhang Yi, "Do you have any requests for me? Although I'm not here, you can tell the servants here at will." Zhang Yi put forward his request. Paji Giseng immediately asked the butler Lebu to sort out the information and hand it all over to Zhang Yi. Then he said goodbye to Zhang Yi and hurriedly took a guard team to Songja Temple by car. After listening to Paji Giseng's words and getting the information he wanted, Zhang Yi took it back and studied it with his family. The strength of the four major families is much weaker than imagined. After all, the southwestern plateau area itself is sparsely populated, and the materials in the plateau area are scarce compared to other areas, so their number of aliens is also less than that of other areas. In addition, the four major families here are secretly fighting each other, and this internal friction makes it more difficult for them to form a strong force. To put it bluntly, Zhang Yi took a look at the military strength of their four major families, and the combined strength is not even comparable to that of the Jiangnan region. If there is no Tantric funeral master as a facade, without the god of death of love, they are really the bottom of Huashu country. I can easily wipe out any of these four major families by myself. If it takes some time and effort, it can be done to destroy all of their families. Zhang Yi felt relieved after reading the information. Yang Xinxin said, "In other words, the only ones who really need to be dealt with are the monks of Songja Temple, especially the master of the cemetery." Zhang Yi nodded. "Yes, that's the truth. But now, we have to add some other hidden forces. For example, the mysterious Ypsilons who were powerful last night. But just when Jangi was studying the various forces in the southwest region, several uninvited guests appeared in the territory of the Pudge family. Outside the wall of the Pudge family, in the violent snowstorm, 3 monks slowly walked from a distance. They were wearing robes and stepped on the snow step by step. They seemed to be very slow, but in the blink of an eye, the soldiers guarding the wall arrived on the wall. The private soldiers of the Pudge family subconsciously raised their guns, but when they saw the clothes on their bodies clearly, they subconsciously moved the muzzles away quietly. In the snowy plateau, attacking monks will go to the 18th level of hell after death. Senior monks, our clan leader has gone to Sanja temple. What do you want to do? An alien captain came over and stared at the several monks. But when he walked up to them and saw the faces of the 3 people clearly, he was so scared that cold sweat broke out on his back. The 3 monks didn't look special. They were not tall and even a little thin. Especially the old man, who was almost skinny. The leader was a middle-aged monk. He looked at the alien captain and said softly, "Yesterday, someone attacked the Dharma Protector Vajra of Sanja Temple. Someone saw them coming to your Paji family. We are here to find someone." The alien captain was usually very brave, but he stuttered at this time. Our master is not here. Please wait a moment. Let me go and inform the housekeeper." The middle-aged monk smiled slightly. "Paji Tussi is not here. Let's go find him ourselves." After he finished speaking, the alien captain was about to say something, and suddenly a fierce blizzard blew around. The soldiers were thrown to the ground, and when they opened their eyes again, the 3 monks in front of them had disappeared. Only a fierce hurricane blew towards the huge courtyard of the Paji family. The captain of the alien's face suddenly changed, and he immediately contacted the courtyard and informed them of the situation here. When the butler Lebu learned the news, his face suddenly became solemn. Oh no! They deliberately sent the head of the family away and came for those distinguished guests. When Paji Gasang left, he also took away the most powerful force of the Paji family, especially his personal guard Solong Deji. Without them, no one in the entire Paji family could deal with the 3 Dharma protectors from Songja Temple. Thanks for staying tuned. This video ends here. We'll be posting more videos. Please like and subscribe, it helps me.